Good evening, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. As you know, March is Women's History Month, and here at Flutterwave, we're very excited to be having today's discussion. My name is Reni Odabi, and I'm the head of talent management here at Flutterwave. We have a very interesting agenda for you today. But before we jump into the agenda, I have a lovely set of ladies here with me who are professionals whose experiences span over a number of years and a number of sectors. In just a moment, I will be introducing them to you. And then right after the introductions, we'll jump right into our panel discussion. The topic for this year's International Women's Day, Women's History Month, is I Choose to Challenge. And we're talking about women and work in a pandemic world and beyond. So jumping right into introductions, I will start off with Bode. She is the Chief Operations Officer here at Flutterwave, where she is responsible for managing operations across the entire organization, including people management, customer success, and settlement operations. Prior to joining us here at Flutterwave, Bode worked as an associate director in KPMG Professional Services with a career spanning over 15 years. Her experience covers customer advisory, development of strategy plans and models for financial institutions and organizations, as well as proposing various ways to scale, improve efficiency, and profits. Next up, we have with me Jennifer. Jennifer is an experienced makeup artist with a demonstrated history of working in the cosmetics industry, skilled in retail, brow threading, skincare, manufacturing, and beauty industry. She is a strong operations and customer experience professional with a Bachelor of Science focused in business administration and management from Igbinedion University, Okada. Using her qualifications, passion, and drive, she became one of the pioneers in primary beauty e-tailers in Nigeria, providing solutions that the explosive growth of the Nigerian beauty industry desperately needed. Founded in 2014, Yanga Beauty has grown and transitioned from being just an e-tailer to owning and manufacturing her own beauty line with a wide range of superior, suitable, and reliable products made for the African woman to look good and feel confident in the way she presents herself to the world. Today, Jennifer's Yanga Beauty offers clients all over the world a joyful experience connecting beauty enthusiasts with their favorite products. Next up, we have Jackie Namara. So Jackie Namara is an independent management consultant with a focus on marketing, communications, and public relations. She has had a successful career spanning over 20 years, 15 of which were part of the senior management teams at Vodafone Uganda, Stanbic Bank, and Airtel Uganda, as well as in fast-moving consumer goods, Unilever Uganda, and beverages, Uganda Breweries. As a result, she has built a solid network in all the industries she's worked in, and she continuously leverages relationships for both business and social projects. She has a proven record in establishing and growing marketing and communications teams and departments, motivating and leading teams to achieve stretch targets, collaborating with all levels of operational and executive management to execute strategic vision through meaningful business plans. She's an excellent oral and written communicator and great at interpersonal relationship skills. She is fascinated about how brands influence our lives and how they can be used as a tool for supporting sustainable business. She is especially interested in health marketing and communication as a means of educating communities for lasting behavioral change, especially in regards to diabetes in children and as a tool for health advocacy. She holds a master's degree in business administration from the University of Technology, majoring in international business and marketing. She is a chartered marketer and a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Marketing in the UK. She is also a member of the Uganda Marketing Society and the Uganda Advertising Association. Last and certainly not the least, we have Adenike Adeyemi, who has over 19 years of experience in non-profit management, enterprise development, institutional transformation, and corporate strategy. She currently leads Nigeria's foremost enterprise development organization, Faith Foundation, as the executive director. Since joining the foundation in 2015, she has raised over $5 million in funding, launched the Signature Incubator and Accelerator programs, expanded digital initiatives to scale the organization's reach to 24 states in Nigeria, and reach over 180,000 plus entrepreneurs. She has also published 12 research reports on the entrepreneurship ecosystem and 8 books for the Nigerian entrepreneur. Her previous work experiences before joining Fate Foundation include being a manager of development and public sector advisory services at KPMG Nigeria and pioneer coordinator of the Nigeria Leadership Initiative. She holds a Master's of Public Administration with a specialization in nonprofit management and a Master's of Arts in Diplomacy and International Relations from Seton Hall University, as well as a Bachelor of Arts degree from the University of Ibadan. She's a 2020 Eisenhower Fellow from the Global Women's Leadership Program and also serves on a number of local and international boards, including trustee, Youth Business International, council member for the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industries, director of VDT and Bitflux Group, director of budget, and director of Oxbridge Tutorial College Foundation. So as you can see, we have um, women joining us from all sorts of backgrounds, wealth of experience, and we're very excited and thrilled to have them here with us this evening. So to jump right into it, we're going to go right ahead into the questions. So, Jackie, you are the first on my list. So, in one sentence, how would you describe your experience working from home over the past year?
It's been interesting. I was fortunate enough to, because I'm self-employed, I was working from home anyway. So going into lockdown mode didn't make a very big difference. I've had to learn how to share because I had got used to having the house all to myself and being able to do whatever I needed. And spending 7 months or so in lockdown or semi-lockdown, and with my son also doing online school, when all of us have to be online and doing what we need to do, then it gets a bit crowded. So it's also been interesting in just learning how to share that space because I had become basically the hogger. But it's I think it's been good because it has humanized what working from home means. Because if you have young children, I mean, when that toddler wants to go potty, they don't care whether your MD is the one that you're talking to. They need to go now, and I think it's been fantastic for us to see that the people that we work with are not just our work colleagues; they have other dimensions to their lives, and I hope that the empathy that we've learned during this time will continue even when we start to re-engage in maybe face-to-face contact with in physical locations, and just knowing that work is no longer a location, work is results, and you can get those results from anywhere. I think that's been completely demystified.
Absolutely, cannot agree anymore. Thank you so much. So it looks like we have an additional panelist, Terry Ann. I'm going to quickly intro her as well. So Terry Ann is an entrepreneur, founder, and CEO of Kiara Botanicals, one of Kenya's leading homegrown skincare brands. She's also a digital content creator and an influencer with combined following of over 1.4 million followers on her digital assets. Back in 2020, she founded Africa's Leading Ladies, which is a platform with a membership of over 380,000 women from Africa. The platform gives access to learning, mentorship pairing within group members, as well as access to networks that enable African women achieve their highest potential. She is also the host of Biashara Talk and Dream Homes Kenya on her YouTube channel, which has its focus on entrepreneurship as well as real estate and investments. Tarian has been in media and communications with more than 15 years experience in media practice, media leadership, and management. She offers media communication consultancies to organizations from time to time. She has dexterous knowledge and awareness of industry trends and possesses strategic links with key personalities across the African continent. She has an in depth grasp of communication dynamics and is regularly called upon to moderate high level economic panel discussions and debates across the world. So, welcome, Terry, and we're very excited to have you here with us as well. So, jumping right back into the questions, Jennifer, the next question is for you. So, what would you say is the most interesting part of your job?
That would be researching and developing like new beauty solutions to problems that I face, and just thinking about new ways, thinking about my customer's journey, that excites me. It just makes me pour myself into it to see customers say, oh, this eye pencil you did has saved me. It works best for me. Just makes me happy and just says that every single thing I did to make that happen worked out well. So that's like the most interesting part for me, researching, developing, finding out new ways so that, you know, makeup application is done faster, better, easier. Yeah, that. Yeah.
The
Thanks.
spirit of an entrepreneur, definitely. So, Terry Ann, next question is for you. So, has mentorship played a role in your career so far? And what has that experience been like?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Mentorship has, has just meant it for me in such a big way, both for my career, my professional life, my personal life as well. And I believe, as a woman who is in a any woman who's in a place of growth or hopes to grow, wants to grow, must have a mentor, because a mentor gives you tough love to start with. They hold your hand, speak of you in places where you may not be able to even knock at the door. And for me, it has been an incredible journey. I've had mentors who, have been with me since the beginning of my career, and I have picked others along the way, have told others you have to mentor me as well. So for me, mentorship is actually the difference sometimes between getting there and just, staying at a plateau.
Thank you so much. So, Adenike, the next question is directed at you. So, what advice would you give to young professionals who are looking or trying to develop a long term career plan? Also, how important is it to develop one?
Okay, so I think the first thing I would say is that for young professionals now, one of the great things I love about looking at the way careers develop now is that the world really is your oyster. When I finished from undergrad or university, my first degree was in linguistics and African languages. If I finished with that degree now, I probably will set up a practice in it now because I feel that there's so many opportunities for diverse career path and it keeps evolving. And so my advice will be definitely have a plan, but let it be flexible. Whatever you learned in school can present a career pathway for you. Your skills can present a career pathway for you, but even a new knowledge you just developed can also present a career pathway for you. I think it's really important to find what gives you joy, but also what can subsequently also pay you and allow you to support yourself effectively. And so maybe every 2 to 3 years, always reassess it and say, okay, how am I doing? What are the career pathways I have in this space that I am in? And what do I want to do? Who can provide guidance to me around the opportunities that are available? And then if you want to make a move to something that's entirely different, yes, do take the leap. Of course, you want to be calculated in the leap too, and really try to get as much information as you can. But just know that the future really is limitless. And there's so many possibilities. And now the way careers are is that you don't necessarily have to be like technical in a particular way. Sometimes it can be a soft skill that you have that can really create a career pathway for you. So you may just be a very good person with people, and that can present so many opportunities for you. You may have a good network. So that really is my own advice in terms of career pathways for younger people.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Very well noted for myself as well. So, Buddy, the next question is to you. What do you think has helped you get so far in your career?
All right, thanks, Rennie. Okay, so for me, it's been a couple of things, right? I think the one of the first things I'll say is because I started my career with KPMG, our KPMG is already defined. So at every level, you know where the promotions are, you know what you need to do, you know what you need to focus on for the next level. And then the way the projects are as you grow within the firm as well, there are new challenges, there are new things. There's always something piquing your curiosity, something making you passionate. So you could go from across industries, you could go from financial services to telcos until I now stayed focused on financial services. And even within that, there's insurance, there's banks. So there's so many different things that you are able to do. But honestly, if I look back really at what is that key thing that has really helped me, right? The fundamental change that I made. And for me, you said I spent 15 years at KPMG. I think the only fundamental change I've done is moving from there, to Flutterwave. And I think it's really about the network that I have around me. So network in terms of my peers and the people that are more senior to me. So people that are able to bounce ideas off, people that, maybe have also made those sort of moves that you can easily talk to as well. And then like a solid peer group as well. So solid peer group that maybe somebody has moved, maybe not necessarily to a startup, but maybe to another industry, and they can tell you some of the challenges that they have made. One of the critical things, I think Nick touched on it, is also understanding and actually doing a self-assessment at every point in time. So like taking every 6 months and saying, but where do you really want to be? What are the options available to me? What's that pathway that I want to choose? So as I look at the pathway, I'm saying, what do I need to go along each of these pathways? Do I need to take an exam? Do I need to get an MBA? Do I need to do some sort of courses as well? So what I'll say is maybe to anybody listening here that is also thinking about that kind of change is saying, do that assessment, be very critical, say what are the paths available to you based on where you are, what do you pursue, what do you need to add on to yourself for you to be able to take that particular leap into whatever you want to do.
Thank you very much, Bode. So, Jackie, we're going to come back to you. So, why is it important for women to have a seat at the table?
It's important because if that table is where the decisions are being made and you're absent, that means your voice is absent. And that table can be in all spheres of your life. It can be in work, it can be in family, it could be with your social friends, it could be with church or some religious organization, it could be with your networking communities. And I think the challenge we have is that in most of our African cultures, women are taught to be seen and not heard. And with that kind of ingrained training in us, and it's considered impolite for you to speak up. Where a man would be praised for speaking up, a woman will be chastised and told, keep quiet, sit in the corner, bring the tea. The classic, you enter a room for a meeting and everyone is placing their tea orders with you and you're like, excuse me, I'm just like you, I'm here to do business. And normally when someone does that to me, I say, oh, thank you very much, I'll have a coffee as well. So just understanding that speaking up is difficult, but whatever opportunity you have to make a contribution, to speak not just for yourself, but to speak for those who are voiceless, those who can't be in the room is important. Because if you're in the room and nobody ever hears from you, a lot of great ideas are just going to waste, and no one begins to know what you're capable of. So speaking up is important. I just wanted to touch a little bit on the question on having a plan, a career plan. And I was reminded by the Japanese philosophy of Ikigai, which is about understanding what your purpose in life is. And they have sort of four areas. So for those people who are starting out and building a career, think about what you love. What is it that you could get up in the morning and do and not get paid for? You just love it to bits. Then think about what you're good at. So what are the technical skills or competencies that you have, which every time you are given feedback about your performance, they're highlighted as really strong areas for you. Then also think about what you can get paid for. Because you might love to bake, but maybe you're not a very good baker and nobody's going to pay for the cakes that you're making. You might love to read, but is anybody going to pay you to read unless you're going to get a job in publishing and maybe become an editor? So thinking about what you love, what you're good at, what you can actually get paid for, and what does the world need? Because sometimes we have all these big dreams, but the world is not ready for us. And in the context of trying to earn a living, then you also have to be realistic and say, okay, this is what the world needs. So maybe I can temper some of this and maybe build on something which is required at this particular point in time. Now, where all those four areas come together, you'll have found a really purposeful career or life plan. And I think for a lot of us, we kind of got into, speaking for myself, I got into marketing by accident and not by design. And if I hadn't started out my career with Unilever and Uganda Breweries, which is part of the Diageo group, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. it was because of starting out in those areas or in those companies where they had a structured way for you to grow your career, and they could show you where you are now. And if you want to get to CEO, there was a path, and it was up to you how much you wanted to invest in that journey. So for younger people, there's a lot more flexibility. But even for people who are on this journey and are transitioning into different worlds, be brave. I think when you're younger, it's easier to experiment. When you're older, then you're thinking, there are obligations that I might need to fulfill. And if I don't have a steady income, it becomes a very difficult way to run my life. But for example, because I'm passionate about diabetes, I've signed up for a diabetes educator course online. So most of the time, those courses require you to have a medical or a public health background. But because of COVID, the organizations are realizing, hang on a minute, why is it important for someone to have that qualification if they can come and study and learn and understand? So let's open it up. And so constantly also challenging yourself and saying, okay, I know I've done this. Is there anything else, any other area I would like to conquer? And just go for it.
Absolutely, such solid advice. Thank you so much, Jackie. And I love the fact that you touched upon, women being seen and not heard, because that ties right into our next question. So, Terry Ann, the next question is for you, please. What advice would you give to women who struggle to have their voices heard in the workplace?
All right, thank you so much. I guess it's an issue that we all deal with, and I've realized through my many years of working, especially when I started off as a business journalist, and you walk into a room, and at that time, at least in the places that I worked with, it was men who were business journalists. So they interviewed the CEOs. They knew what questions to ask the central bank governor. They were like so much testosterone and so much confidence. And for me, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? What my mentor then told me was, the most important thing is that you have to know your stuff. You have to read more. You have to make a daily commitment to learn something new within that space, because it was a new space for me. And what I've learned with time is, one, as much as you have, as the more knowledge you have, the more confidence you have, and just being deliberate in putting your hand up. And sometimes it takes practice, but when you know more than everybody else sometimes, or you have, you're either more talented in A, or you have more skills or more experience. So we have to be more deliberate. And I like the question you asked one of the fellow panelists about getting a seat on the table. And for me, what that means is also opening that seat up, or opening the table up for other women. So when we put our hand up, we're also saying it's not just for me, but it's also to let A, B, C, D know that they can also do the same thing. So for women who are already in places of influence in the office or in the boardroom, it's up to us to open the door for others. And those who haven't will need also to be more deliberate and just be more confident and we should never fear to put ourselves forward, ever.
So, jumping right into the next question, Jennifer, the next question is for you. So, one thing that we always hear about is the power of community. How and where have you been able to build a community of like-minded women?
The truth is, purpose requires community and in life you never go as far as your dream, but like the team that where you get wisdom from. So I think that community is so important, because you get wisdom, you get ideas, you hear stories that encourage you in your journey. And in Younger Beauty, it was so important to also have a community. And so we last year during the pandemic, we came up with something called Expert Tribe, where we said, Younger Beauty is all about ensuring that you are empowered. So one thing about the brand is we've had people come up and say, oh, I was referred by my friend. And we're like, you know what, this is what we're talking about. We want people to, come together, talk together, get referred. And so we came up with Expert Tribe, and we just realized that it was so good. We had over 1,000 plus tribers, and so they can earn from their influence or experience. They can learn, earn, meet up together, create looks, And it's like that beauty community that, encourages oneness. So you don't know something, you can always ask someone in your tribe, and you get to become better. So I think that everything revolves around community. You get, especially like on days when I'm discouraged, I look at that tribe and I see the conversations that go on, and I get to borrow motivation from them. So you can't, if you want to thrive, you can't go at it alone. You need your community. I mean, I'm surrounded by amazing friends. I have a community of women who that's outside of work, who I talk with. We inspire each other. I think on Monday we had we hung out on online, and we were just talking and encouraging each other. So I think community is every single thing, and we've been able to do that in my company um, by launching Expert Tribe, and it's been a beautiful journey. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and it sounds like it. So moving right along, Adenike, the next question is for you. So for the men listening in, can you suggest one way in which they can support women?
That question, if we think of women, there are women all around us. So whether as men or as women. So I think for me, we'll be starting with their immediate communities and immediate networks. So first of all, families, your sisters, your sisters, your mothers, and all of that. Is there a way that you need to look at them a bit differently from how it is? Because sometimes there's situations, because it's Women's Day. So I've been in quite a lot of conversations where where I remember I was in one yesterday, and people were talking about how their brothers, for instance, because of the certain way that culture is, there's certain cultural things, and that it's almost like their brothers will put their relationship behind and put culture first. So I'm not saying that, before I'm misinterpreted, I'm not saying that we should throw away culture. But I think, first of all, are you listening to the women around you? Are you listening to your sisters, your mother, your wives, and all of that? Because that really is where it starts with. I think the other thing also is that, how are we also raising our children? How are we raising the children around us? Because it starts from when we're young to children, when everybody grows up mirroring their environment and learning and picking up from their environment. And so even if it's hard to change behaviors now, how are we also helping to nurture and change behavior? So those who are men here, who are fathers, how are you showing them that men and women are equal? They're different biologically and all of that, but both can do what they want to do in different ways. And the way that is done is important. Again, looking at communities, a lot of men here, you're either entrepreneurs with women on your team, or you're in a workplace with colleagues, with peers around you. So again, are you listening? Are you engaging conversations? Because sometimes when we talk about things around inclusivity, whether related to gender issues or age or so many other things, it's first of all really understanding, having your ears and understanding what the other party is trying to say, and what they mean, not what you're interpreting it as what they want to say. So I think that goes a long way. It really depends on the circles that each of the men here are on, and those really are the immediate spheres of influence that they can and should have control, and should have influencing with in terms of behaviors. To also be honest, I know that there's some men that have also been very strong supporters of women in certain things. And part of the reasons that they do that is because sometimes other men need to see men as examples of what can be done, or what shouldn't also be done in certain ways to be able to do that. So modeling change is also very important around these conversations too. So that's my own quick response to that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. So we've spoken a lot about work, how much we work and whatnot, but we have to be balanced. And one thing that I'm a huge advocate for is self-care. So Buddy, this question is for you. So outside of work, what is one thing that you do that helps you distress from a busy day?
All right. So the reason why I'm laughing is because um you know Nika is here, right? So we're both part of she encouraged me to start exercising actually. So I was a runner in school, so I used to do evening runs. But because of work and schedules and all, but there was something she told me about exercising in the morning, and I've taken it, since the past 2 years. So that adrenaline rush in the morning when you run and all of that. The other thing that I also do is I'm a member of a dance class. I've tried to take a number of people at work to this as well. So it's not aerobics or anything. We just dance for like an hour in the evenings as well. So I think those are the two things. Like the dance really helps, even though you really have to be very firm in making time to do all of that. Yeah. So dance and exercise. So the exercise is not carrying weights and all. It's really just like a power walk for like sometimes 30 minutes or about 40 minutes every morning. So that really helps to set the tone for my day.
Fantastic. And Bodeo and I are going dancing once. So Terry Ann and Jennifer, this question is actually posed to both of you. So what drew you to the beauty industry, and what is something that people don't know about Africa's beauty industry? What would you say your best-selling product is?
All right, is
So
that for
Jennifer, I
me?
can see you're on mute, so why don't you start with them, Jennifer, and you next?
All right,
Okay.
can I go? Sorry. Okay.
Okay, I think she can go. Then I'll go after her.
Yes, Terry Ann, please go ahead, and then Jennifer will go right after.
All right. First of all, the most important thing that everybody should know about African products is that when you travel around the world, and I'm sure most of you already have, whether it is in the US or Europe, you'll see some of the main oils that are used in this, niche, prestigious, natural, organic products. All the natural, the main ingredients are usually from Africa, whether it's shea butter or marula oil or baobab oil or moringa oil. Some of these oils that have been trending, let's say for the last 5 years, 10 years or so, these are premium African oils. So we have the potential of actually being the leading producers of premium beauty products from the African continent. But there's a lot to learn in terms of quality, in terms of packaging, where we all face a challenge as African countries, because we still have to import. If we have to compete with multinationals, we have to almost always import our packaging. So there's that. Our best-selling product is what we call the Shea and Honey Body Balm. And I'm proud of it because we use shea butter. I know most people believe and know shea butter is from West Africa, but we also have shea butter in East Africa. And it comes from Uganda, northern Uganda and South Sudan, which have a really premium shea butter, which we use. And we also use aloe vera from farmers in Kenya, and we also use avocado oil. So that is actually our best-selling product, and I can't wait to export it to countries like Nigeria, Ghana, for you to also experience what our shea butter from this side of the world looks like.
Thank you, Terry, and I'm looking forward to that, definitely. I love shea butter. Jennifer, over to you. Same question. What drew you to the beauty industry, and what is something people don't know about that industry? And then what would you say your best-selling product is?
Okay, so I'll start with our best-selling product. Well, now that we are wearing masks, it's now the eye products. So eyeliners, brow pencils, mascaras. So yes, that. What people don't know about the African beauty industry is that we, just like she said, most of the ingredients are from Africa. One that I really, really like the most is palm oil. It's used to make moisturizers, foam cleansers. It's processed into glycerol, fatty acids, and all of that. Then what drew me into the beauty industry? I just graduated from school, and I'm very up and about. I don't like being idle. So I decided to learn makeup. I'm waiting for my call-up letter, and I then got employed. I was doing that on the side. I'd done, finished serving, applied for different jobs, didn't get any. And I said, okay, this is what I have. I'm going to fall back to this. And I started to just build on that. And I started noticing that we didn't have enough representation. Like, foundations were not exact match. It's either, it just wasn't, there was just something missing. And I said, this could be it for me. This is something that, I could, turn around and can use that, create products, and then also use that to empower other women. And then I realized that, I started seeing 90% of our distributors are women. And that just, encouraged me more to keep going at it. And then the one that, really drew me into that was I bought an inferior eyeliner. I used that and it affected my sight. I couldn't have makeup on for a while. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take this so serious. And that's literally how I got into it. Yeah, thanks.
Fantastic. Buddy, the next question is for you. So, can you talk a little bit about what your experience was like going from a fairly structured organization or environment like KPMG to joining a very fast paced, high growth startup like Flutterwave? And what was the most surprising thing for you when you joined Flutterwave?
All right, thanks, Rennie. That's a very interesting question. So, what I'll say to that is, I won't really call Flutterwave maybe not fed more KPMG more structured than Flutterwave, because KPMG was incorporated in, I think, 1987 or so. We Flutterwave is like 5 years old. So there are different companies at different stages of growth, different operating environments, and all of that. I think the beauty for me was um, when I was at KPMG, right, you get to work with all sorts of companies, right, and they're also at different stages of their growth. So if you look at some of the companies, some don't even have a structure, some don't have HR policies. You go to another company, they have everything, they're super structured, everything works well. So when I came, right, I'm not sure I was very, very surprised, because I was sort of kind of prepared for what I was saying. I was prepared because I already had some conversations. I had spoken to a lot of people about startups, how it works. So even when I came, right, there were a number of so things were already working. It's just that, how many were we then? Maybe just a group of 50 people. Now we're about 300 people. And then as you evolve, you bring people in. When I came, for instance, I was doing my to-do list was basically like a meeting between myself and GB, and he would tell me these are all the things that you have to do today. Unlike, we're just trying to make sure everything was working. Unlike now, where there are people manning different things, and then we've sort of recruited into key roles and all of that. So at the end of the day, I think it was me coming in and working with the team to sort of build the structure that we wanted, and working with everybody to say, how do we want this to work for us? How do we want HR to work for us? How do we want operations to work for our own unique situation? So yeah, so I think that's what I always say about the beauty of working in different industries and being exposed to different things, right? Maybe the other things that I may say maybe may have been a bit surprising. Maybe not really, because even at a stage, organizations were evolving. So we had a lot of interns as well working in consulting. So when you came here and you saw all the young people, so blending in into the dressing, blending in into the culture, blending into everything were things that I was already learning and I was already used to, because of the sort of conversations and people that we're also working with, and the way the teams were structured. So working in a team, we work as a team here as well. Yeah. So that was it.
100% agree with you on that, buddy. Adenike, next question is for you. So in 2020, Fate Foundation had a series of conversations with business leaders, one of which actually included GB and Foladiola. And so why do you think these conversations were important?
Yeah, so the conversations you're talking about is a series we had, an 8-part series called Journeys in Entrepreneurship. And what we really wanted to do was to showcase the diverse spread of entrepreneurship in Nigeria. And why was it important? It's really just telling stories, because sometimes when we look at entrepreneurship, we look at it in the lens of where we are. And so, and where we are, and also what's the buzz. But there are different facets of people building businesses. We have SMEs, we have startups, and we have people across different industries. We have people across different locations. And that's the story that we wanted to tell. But we also wanted to tell it in two lenses. We wanted to tell it from the experience of somebody who was relatively newer in a particular space, speaking with somebody who had significant had had more years of experience, because it's not, in some cases, some of the experiences were slightly closer. So we had Mr. Diola, who had founded GT Bank, and then we had GB with Flutterwave. We're talking about the financial services industry, but from different perspectives, and just show that evolution. And for the conversations we're having today, which is also around International Women's Day, it was also important for us to show the diversity and how people play. So in some of the conversations we had were also around women doing interesting things in different spaces. So for instance, in like media and technology, a lot of times when we look at media, we think of on camera and all of that. There's so many things around technology that is even affecting the way media and entertainment is. And there's so many things that also go behind the scenes. And when we look at entrepreneurship, which is this, and I'm happy we have amazing entrepreneurs in this space, it's important to show that diversity. Same way we talk about career pathways, that before people will say lawyer, engineer, doctor, anything else you do and that doesn't fall in line, that is not a career. It's the same way to show that entrepreneurship is diverse, and we need to also make it inclusive, and that whether you're in tech, whether you're in agribusiness, whether you're in education, do what you're doing, do it to the very best that you can, and try to build that business as best as you can. The great thing also is that we're seeing intersections across industries. So there are businesses here that if there are a lot of businesses we know, and some on this panel, where there are like 2 or 3 sectors or industries at the same time with that. That also shows even the evolution of the country, and particularly for women businesses. One of the things that's interesting for us is that in Nigeria, if you look at the statistics, we have a lot of women who are entrepreneurs, but most of the women in the space play in the micro business segment. And so if you're looking at SMEs, you only find women at 22% of SMEs, and SMEs are the growing businesses. They're the business that are at the growth stage. And if we want women to have a seat at the table, if we want women to really be that voice, because we're half of the population. So we're half of the population. I'm speaking for Nigeria, but I'm sure even that's if reflected around the world. We really need to ensure that we also support in different ways and enable women to grow businesses. And we showcase women that have also done it against the odds, so that even that's also an inspiration for other people that are coming behind. But also they're also able to shed lights and examples and areas where policy changes need to be effected, so that the kind of supportive or enabling business environment we want to see is there. So it's the same thing around how we say, okay, we need to showcase stories, let people that are typically not seen, let's see different models of what's possible in this space and what has been done, and let's celebrate that diversity, because that really is the sum total of who we are and what's possible in the space that we're in.
100%. So we're actually coming towards the end of our panel discussion. Jackie, the last question is for you. And it is, what advice would you give to women struggling in a male-dominated industry?
Okay, yeah, great question. And I don't know who had mentioned it earlier, something around preparation. I have a relative who works in the electricity generation space in South Africa. And she's always telling me how most times when she goes for meetings, because she's progressed quite quickly in her career, and she's typically the only woman in the room and the youngest in the room. So her typical interactions are with old white men, just to give you an idea of what she's up against. But the one thing that has always impressed me about her is that she's very deliberate about what she wants and what she wants out of her career, and what she wants out of the meetings or interactions or the projects that she's handling. But the one thing she will not compromise on is her professional competence. So when you know that the odds are already stacked against you, the one area where you should not be letting not just yourself, but the other women who are watching you is in the area of technical competence. We find ourselves in some of these industries where a man will have 50% of what is required to do the job. A woman will have 80, even 100% of what is needed, and she will doubt herself. And it takes the community that we've been talking about to have people who you surround yourself with who will show you up when you're feeling a bit insecure or not confident about what you're doing. Having mentors who you can go and have, a good conversation with about what you're going through, and just making sure that every time you enter into any one of those spaces where you're the only woman in the room, people sit up and take notice and they want to hear what you have to say. You should get to a point where even maybe decisions are not made until your voice has been heard, because the male dominated spaces are not going to go away anytime soon. That's the reality that we face. But show up prepared. And I'm part of a global networking organization called Project Girls for Girls. And we always have these conversations with the young women that we mentor, and we say, do it afraid, but do it anyway. It might be scary to end up in that space and you're thinking, what have I got myself into? Do I really know what I'm doing? But it always pays off if you're prepared, you know what needs to be done. And where you need help, ask for help. I think sometimes we get into these spaces, and if you're the youngest and you're only woman and you're a different color, it might seem like there is nowhere to go and ask for help, but always ask for help when you need it. Because if you don't ask for help, then you're perpetuating the stereotype that you are not supposed to be in that space anyway. I faced this when I was working for one of the telecoms companies. And in that situation, the technical team determined where the network infrastructure was positioned. And so maybe for me, it was coming in from a different organization, different cultures. And I just said, hang on a minute, since who says that that's the way it should be? Isn't it the other way around? Shouldn't we be telling you where the customers are and what they need? And then you technically figure out where to put the infrastructure. And nobody had ever challenged the team that way. So as a means of kind of getting rid of me, they said, okay, fine. If you think you can do the network planning better than we can, and we are the engineers, here are the spreadsheets, here are the models, you figure out where it is, put in the numbers. And I said, no problem. So I walked to someone who was a bit more open and I said, explain to me how this thing works and what I need to put in, and I will get it done. Now, once I had demonstrated that even though I wasn't an engineer, I understood the business logic, then we began to have a different kind of conversation from that point on. So even when the things are scary and hard to do, at least try, but also ask for help.
Absolutely. It is essential to ask for help when necessary. All right, so we have come to the end of our panel discussion. Many thanks to each and every one of you for your contributions. It was such a fruitful discussion. We're going to jump right into our Q&A. So we do have a few questions already. Terry Ann, the first one is for you. So you spoke earlier about the importance of mentorship. How does one identify a good mentor? What are some of the things we must look for when seeking mentorship? And what are some key pointers for mentees that can help us maximize mentorship?
All right. Thank you for that. First of all, the best way to find a mentor is to know where you want to go. And once you know where you want to go, then you will look around your circles or around the place that you want to go, and you find somebody who's already there. That's usually the best person to hold your hand. And I also need to say that sometimes asking for a mentor is it can be a difficult task depending on what the situation is. But usually I would recommend speaking to people around you who might know somebody who can mentor you, or somebody even just within your circles to start with. And that way, then they will connect you faster, maybe to somebody who's even who they know has higher skills, who already does mentorship. So it almost always goes back to your circles. It's that thing of, your network is your net worth. And I know it's very cliche, but it actually is. And, once you speak to people around your network, and I find that people who are ready to mentor will almost always see you and they know that I need to hold this person's hand. So some of the best mentorships I've had and some of the best mentors I've had are people who I did not need to ask to mentor me. They spotted it and they knew that I needed to be, held or handheld to go onto the next step. But with social media now, it has really broken down barriers to meeting the people who you want to help, to mentor you. And I would recommend, sending a message on a DM if it's somebody that you uh, may have access to. Write an email, which is even better sometimes. Or, as I'd mentioned before, look for somebody who may know that person. But the most important step is always knowing, where do I want to go? And if this person mentors me, what will I gain from it? But also, what will you give back to that person? Because mentorship is two-way. You can't always be the one asking. You also have to be ready to step back and say, I can help you do A, I can help you do B. So it's a mutually beneficial relationship, which unfortunately most of us young people do not look at in that way. So I guess that's the simple tips that I would share. But I would request anybody who is online today, if you do not already have a mentor, it is one of the most critical steps that you need to take if you're serious about growing, professionally, expanding your spaces, and just, moving to the next level.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Taran. So the next question is not directed to anyone specifically, but how can we encourage women to take advantage of African continental free trade agreements to expand their businesses?
All right. I'd like to take it mostly because early last year, I was invited to be part of an organization that's based out of South Africa, and it's called the Pan-African Business Women Association, basically built upon the premise of the free continental pre-continental trade in Africa. And as a businesswoman, I always ask myself, I've met some of you today. I've met Jackie today online. I've met yourself, Rennie, today online as well. And I ask myself, what stops me from getting my products where you are? And yes, in terms of what the governments and African governments are looking to doing, that it would be the absolute. It's an absolute blessing. It's hard for us to get products into other markets, Europe, the US, yet we are such a strong market in ourselves. You said yourself, Rennie, you love shea butter, right? What would stop, let's say, somebody from Uganda who's producing one of the best shea butters in Africa? What stops them from selling that to you? What stops us from having African products on our African shelves? So my thinking would be, as we look towards governments doing that, let's also see what partnerships we can build amongst ourselves, to just begin looking outside the borders. I mean, Jack is next door to me in Uganda. She might know somebody who would be interested in the products that I have. Yanga is not too far away from us as well. It may be a couple of hours by flight, but we have freight, in between. So my thinking is, for any woman who's, and not just, products, but in services as well. We're in a global market, and Africa is a really big market as well. And it's up to us to be deliberate in finding, no matter how small it is, a small gap in a market that you can get into. So I think it's an amazing place we're going as Africa. Hopefully our leaders will tag along as fast as they should, because we are already beginning to see opportunities, and we should take them. Nothing stops me or nothing stops you on Facebook to ask a lady in a different country, hey, I'm supplying shea butter, would you be interested in buying some? And that's how we begin to build markets.
Absolutely. Does
Can
anybody else?
can yeah.
Jennifer, yes, please go ahead.
Okay, so I agree with what Taryn has said. I have retail partners in Ghana, South Africa, and I reached out to some, and by sending emails. I also have retail partners in the US and UK. And why was that? Because shipping outside of Nigeria is so expensive. And, I use the Flutterwave store, and most of my abandoned carts are from the US, Kenya, Ghana. And I'm wondering, oh, okay, I need to do something about this. And one of my retail partners in Ghana the relationship was, oh, hi, you know, her name is Nasaj. And it's like, hi, Nasaj, would you be willing to get 30% off? You know, just take my products, get it across any customer who wants products in Ghana. I refer them to you. And that has been an amazing relationship. We also have exhibitions, you know, that we attend. We have an exhibition called the Makeup Fair. So we see customers and, you know, retail partners from different countries. I had someone come from Ivory Coast, and, you know, that's, there's no limits with that. We need to help each other. And so I think everyone should take advantage of it. Thank you.
Absolutely. Does anybody else want to answer? Yes, please go ahead,
Yeah.
Adenike.
So I think what I want to now speak to is probably more of the practical aspect of it, because the AFTA agreement is still being detailed from a country level perspective. And the important thing we need to find out is the provisions relating to the sectors and the industries that we operate in, and also from a country level. And so I expect that in the next few months, we will see a number of chambers of commerce and industry. I belong to LCCI in Lagos. So that's Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. So wherever we are, we should look for industry groups and associations, because quite a number of them are drilling down the provisions of the agreement from a country level and also from a sector specific level. And that way, what we do is, first of all, we understand what works and what the opportunities are, but we can also position ourselves to take advantage of these opportunities that exist. So that's the additional thing that I'll add to what Terianne and Jennifer have said.
Perfect. Thank you to all three of you. We have another question. Again, not directed at anyone specifically, but have you ever been in a position where your gender caused your competence to be questioned for a role or contract? And if so, how did you handle it?
I would like to answer that question. And so, as Bodi had indicated, both of us were formerly colleagues at KPMG. And the example I'll give was probably like 8 or 9 years ago. And it wasn't just gender, it was gender and age. So we also have ageism and all of that. So sometimes when you're female, when you're younger or you look younger, and when you are not even married, it's like it just makes everything worse. So on not one, but like three projects I worked on, and I was the project manager. I remember the first time, and one of them was a commissioner or minister or something, as the project champion. And at the first project meeting, this project champion for our client, the first thing he said when he came in was like, "Oh, where is the partner on this project?" I was like, "I'm the manager of the project. I'm the one in charge." I said, "Hey, I have a daughter like you. I have a daughter," and literally I have, and I'm saying this literally that was how the conversation was. And it wasn't, and I think sometimes in that kind of situation, it wasn't even said in an aggressive way. It was almost like a matter of fact and all of that. So that even sometimes makes it worse. And so obviously the fact that I'm on the project means that I can do the project, and my partner I know was not going to come. My partner in the firm was not going, the project was not going to come with it. Jackie made an important statement, which is that you really have to know your space and you have to know what you're doing. So even in some spaces that we've been, so in that place, the person is telling me that I have a daughter like you. So in his own mind and that context, so he's even asking himself and then there's the sneer on his face that is this the person that I'm going to be relating to on that? The important thing for me then was that I know the knowledge I have and the competence that I have to do this, and I'm going to do it very well. So obviously, I went way over and beyond. And at the end of the day, from something where in the initial meetings, you will always be asking about the partner. Later on, I will be the first point of call to contact to call. So unfortunately, we're in a society where that is an issue. But the first way to also bridge that gap barrier is also us also knowing the space that we're in. The other thing also sometimes is that, we also have to inform the people around us. So if this is in a corporate environment where we have other people, it's also important to let other people within your space know that this is the experience that you're going through. And so that they also make sure that the pedestal or how they also present you does not make the situation worse and all of that in it too. So thankfully, things have changed a bit since then and have improved. So one is less likely, well, it's still there, to be honest. And I'm sure that we will still find a lot of people doing that. But some of these vocal things, people don't say it as vocal as they would, but the perceptions and the mindsets are there. So that's the experience and the example that I had. I know that, I think, like I said, I think it was Jackie that said it, sometimes you really also have to do way over and beyond to ensure that people understand that, yes, I know this thing, I have a right to be here. And, you can't disrespect me in that position. The other thing then that I didn't do was I didn't also laugh with the person and all of that. I said, oh, yes, I'm the manager on your project. And it was professional and formal. So how do you also set the tone? And the other thing also is that once I had been in that situation once, anytime I was going to be in similar types of dynamics, I almost expect that there'll be bias. I almost expect that there'll be this type of mindset. And so, because it's harder when you're caught unawares, but it's better when you're sort of prepared. So in certain situations, the work that we do, there's a part of our work from a policy perspective that engages a lot with government. I'm not trying to bash government, but a lot of people in government tend to be older men, and tend to be also very stuck in certain ways and have certain expectations. So I automatically expect those type of reactions, and then I prepare for it, and I expect that to happen. And yeah, so that's my own example and how I addressed it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adinika. So I can see that we have three hands raised. I'm going to go in order. So Jennifer, your hand was raised first, so we'll start with you, then we'll go to Jackie and then Body.
Okay, thank you. So my personal experience would be, so after I opened up my store, I had a gentleman come in and said, "Oh, your store looks cute." And I'm like, like Adenika said, I didn't laugh. I didn't find it funny. I just, shared. And I said, I mean, and I just started explaining, saying that, oh, and he was like, "Oh, are you really making money from this business? It looks like a hobby." And I'm like, okay, that, if it was a guy's store you went into, I'm sure you would have said, "Oh, well done, this is a good business," or something. But my store is not cute. This is, if you must know, this is an income generating hobby. And I just went on to explain, and I said, and I sold myself my services. And I said, if you have sisters who are looking to learn makeup and want to buy products or want to sell, let them come, and then you know if we're making any income or not. I think that one for me was not keeping quiet, and also not responding in like my manner of approach was really respectful. I just said, okay, this is it, and and I just, after that conversation, I just laughed it off, and I just kept on being focused. Yeah, that's just my personal experience.
Thank you, Jennifer. Jackie, over to you, please.
I think, Jennifer, you've touched on it, and so did Adinike when she talked about just understanding the dynamics of what you're walking into. Early in my career, I was very naive in thinking that great work would speak for me. And so I completely neglected the politics within the organization, to my detriment. And what that meant was that when other projects opportunities would come up, your name was not anywhere in that conversation, because you were not going out for drinks, you were not playing golf. You might not like, I don't like golf, but I can walk the green in order to have a conversation with someone who I know will be my advocate in a space where I will not be physically present. And I think sometimes as women, we think, but I do my job. My performance ratings have all been exceeds expectations or very good. And we think that that's enough for us to get into a particular role. And the sad reality is that politics has been demonized and is casticized as a bad word. And therefore, I'm not going to get involved in the politics. And I think that's the wrong approach. I learned this so much later, and I was like, if I'd known this earlier, then maybe my career would have taken a different path. So it's just about understanding that there are the meetings that happen before, outside, and after whatever you're going after, and are you part of those conversations? And it can be what we call the water cooler moments. It can just be passing by that person's desk who is an influencer or an opinion leader, and having a cup of coffee and talking about nothing related to work, but just getting to know them as people and understanding their interests, so that when it's time for you to present your pitch, they already have some idea of who you are, and you already know who they are, and you have a better relationship. And I don't think we should also think about gender bias as a bad thing. We're women. Let's use our femininity. There's nothing wrong with walking into a room wearing color, putting on your lipstick, putting on your heels, but being professional. Because sometimes I believe I've gotten away with murder, where if a guy had done the same thing that I had done, he would have been fired. But because I understood it was going to be very difficult for them to do that to a woman, yes, I will acknowledge the mistake. I will say how I'm going to solve the problem. But there are situations where, honestly, being a woman will save you. And we just have to learn how to incorporate our femininity in a professional workplace in a way that promotes what our gender is and is not used in a way that is going to lead into maybe sexual harassment or anything like that.
All right. Yeah, so just quickly for me, right? Because Jackie touched on what I wanted to say in the last one. So I think it's just the little bits and pieces, right? In what also makes you a woman. I remember one very big strategy project I was doing. I was co-leading it with a male colleague, right? Everybody knew when there was a meeting because when I come into the room in the morning, they'll be like, ah, for sure, but they has a meeting today. And it was just one of the things I learned, maybe in the colors I wear, in the way, because I had this issue and I struggled with a lot of, you have a baby face, you have to look older, you have to look more mature as I grew in my career. So just little things about even the kind of shoes I wore or how I matched my skirt suits for some of the presentations. And you know what she said is just so spot on because you're so ready, you look so regal, you look so present, right? So he goes on, he does his own presentation. They could ask him 20 questions, right? But because I'm so prepared and maybe the way, the aura and everything I'm just, giving off, right? And they're like, do you guys have any questions for Body? And they'll be like, no, 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 no. We think Body has covered everything, So just those subtle things, right? And also the way you show up, which is also so different from even the technical bit because he assumes that for you to be at the table, you already have the technical soundness that is required for the job.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to all of you. So we don't have any more questions. So on behalf of the Flutterwave team, I just want to thank each and every one of you for being here with us this evening. Before we round off for the evening, we do have another special announcement this evening. So Flutterwave obviously has been a big supporter and advocate for women and SMEs as well. And so carry on our tradition of being supportive. We are officially announcing that we have a Flutterwave Women's Day grant for 2021. The grant will be awarded to women-led businesses from these 7 countries, so Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, Uganda, South Africa, Rwanda, and Zambia. And we are essentially awarding 7 women-led businesses with micro grants to boost their businesses and celebrate Women's Day. In addition to the financial support, we will also be offering mentorship for a period of 10 months until the next Women's Day to provide these women with expertise, face time, and tips on how to grow their businesses. Each business will be awarded with a total of $2,500, bringing our total contribution to $17,500 to be awarded. Lastly, the businesses will also be supported with video content, visibility, both through paid and organic channels. The women will get access to an exclusive group where they'll be mentored through office hours by the best women and men in business. The mentors will be selected from all 7 countries, covering technology, marketing, finance, sales, operations, and investment. So look out for the link to apply for this opportunity for this grant. The applications will end on the 24th of March, and the winners will be announced 2 weeks right after that. There's no entry fee and there is no purchase necessary to apply for this grant. And so again, happy Women's History Month, International Women's Day, and we thank you very, very much for spending your evening with us to learn more about what we're choosing to challenge. And so my last question for the evening, just to tie into the theme of the event, is the topic for International Women's Day is I Choose to Challenge. I would like to hear from each of our panelists. What are you choosing to challenge this year?
I don't know what hand the salute is, but let me put my hand up. So I choose to challenge the dream killers. I support the creation of spaces where women can dream big and get the help they need to fulfill those dreams.
Fantastic. Buddy, you are up next.
I choose to challenge any fear, go for it. It doesn't matter what the challenge is, just go for it, do it because you have everything that you can use to achieve it.
Jennifer, up next.
So Buddy just said what I wanted to say. So I will just say I choose to keep educating, empowering, encouraging and celebrating women. Yeah.
I choose to challenge mediocrity. We are in a place of influence. We should give 100%, not just to what we do, but to uh, bringing up or supporting a new generation of women who will choose to lead.
Thank you so much. And Adenike, you're last but not least.
So I choose to challenge policies that don't allow women to grow their businesses to the full extent possible that they can. So that's what I do, and that's what I choose to challenge. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much again on behalf of Flutterwave. It was such an insightful conversation. I can see the comments blowing up. Everybody's giving their thanks and their praise. They definitely enjoyed the conversation. I look forward to keeping in touch with everyone, and I look forward to finding out who the winners are of our grant, and we will be in touch next International Women's Day. Thank you so much to everyone who has watched and attended, and have a lovely evening.